Good morning, my name is Alimžanova. I am English teacher of Nazarbayev Intellectual School of Physics and Maths in Astana. I present you a lesson which was prepared by Alibek Ahmetov. So let's start our lesson. Skim this piece of text and tell what the text is about. Description of two diagrams. The two diagrams show students' responses to the question of how good they are at managing their finances. The pie chart illustrates the ability of UK students to manage their finances, and the table shows the proportion of students by age who think they are very organized at managing their finances. More than 3/4 of students, 76%, believes they are either very or fairly organized financially, while 1 in 5, 20%, they are not very organized in this area. Only 4% of students rate themselves as not at all competent. The ability to manage one's finances well would seem to develop with age and experience, as older students are almost twice as likely to say they are very organized than younger ones. 31% of students aged 26 or over compared to just 17% for those aged up to 22. Overall, the findings suggest that students generally manage their finances well. So there are 151 words. So you see the sample of task IELTS 1. So our lesson is draw your own graph and graph comprehension exercises. The aims of our lesson are to make students aware of how important it is to indicate the details as much precisely and correctly as possible. The next aim is to introduce a way of comprehending the information on the graphs. Our learning objectives are learners will be able to indicate key details correctly, comprehend quicker what is on the graphs, extract relevant information from the graphs. So, first of all, draw your own graph. Look at the slide and tell me what kind of chart is it? Give me your answers. I'm waiting for your answers. Yes, you're right. It is bar chart. So the bar chart below shows the average number of monthly flights in OOS out of a regional airport called Cranby. Next, read the text which follows the chart and plot the line graph for the number of flights out of the second airport called Tinbury. So, in January, the number of flights from Cranby Airport was exactly half that of those from Tinbury. In the following months, both airports saw a rise of about 50,000 flights. But in March, while flights from Cranby continued to increase to 150,000, those from Tinbury dropped back to the January level. Flights from Cranby stayed at the March level for the following 2 months, but in April, the number leaving Tinbury climbed to 175,000, remaining at this level for the subsequent month. The number of flights from both airports decreased in June, although the reduction was more dramatic in Tinbury than Cranby, by 50,000 and 20,000 respectively. Both cities experienced a rise in the number of flights leaving their airports in July, reaching a common level to 175,000. This increase continued in August, both airports having just over 200,000 outbound flights. However, in September, while the number of flights out from Tinbury continued to climb to 25,000, more than the February peak, those from Cranby remained at the same number as for the previous months. October saw an increase in the number of flights from Cranby to 250,000, but a steep drop in those from Tinbury to the June level. During the last 2 months of the year, the number of takes off from both airports went up and then fell. From Cranby, a dramatic rise in November to 350,000 was followed by a slight decline in the subsequent months, while from Tilbury the increase in the number of flights was more marked in November, climbing to a new peak of 375,000. But December then saw the number of flights tumble to 75,000. So look at this slide. This is the right answer. So you may compare your answer with the model answer. So now we are going to have exercise. This exercise helps to develop the skill of extracting relevant information from the graph. Before you look at the graph in this exercise, read the questions on the next slide carefully. So the first, look at the graph very quickly. Which feature stands out the most? The second, what are the main characteristics of the graph can you see? Third, is it possible to group the different types of fuel? If so, how? Fourth, which line represents coal and which natural gas? How do you know? Fifth, if you are asked to describe the graph, is it important to put in reasons for the changes in the amount of energy consumed? Sixth, which tense are you most likely to use in describing the graph? Seventh, as regards petroleum, you can mention that over the period consumption fluctuated, but ended the period of approximately the same level. What else can you say? Eighth, in writing you should always try to avoid repetition. Are there any synonyms you can use for consumption, rise and fall? And now, cover the questions above and study the graph below, which shows inland energy consumption in the UK in million tons of oil coal equivalents from 1992 to 1995. After you have done this, look at the graph again and answer the questions. So look at the graph very quickly. Which feature stands out the most? The relationship of coal and gas. This is called an inverse relationship. Next question. What are the main characteristics of the graph can you see? Other main features are the rise in natural gas, which first overtakes coal in mid-1992 and then petroleum for part of 1995. The slight increase in the use of nuclear and hydropetroleum. The amount of energy consumed at the beginning of the period is not much different from that at the end. So over the period the amount of energy consumed is relatively constant. Third question. Is it possible to group the different types of fuel? If so, how? So you can divide the energy sources in two types: fossil, petroleum, coal and natural gas, and non-fossil, nuclear and hydroelectricity. Fourth question. Which line represents coal and which natural gas? How do you know? Look for a pattern. Nuclear and hydroelectricity is below the line, coal above, and so on. Fifth question. If you ask to describe the graph, is it important to put in reasons for the changes in the amount of energy consumed? No, not unless you ask to do so. Question number 6. Which tense are you most likely to use in describing the graph? The present simple and the simple past. Question number 7. As regards petroleum, you can mention that over the period consumption fluctuated, but ended the period at approximately the same level. What else can you say? The consumption can be divided into two parts: the relative stability of 1992-1993 and the more erratic behavior in the subsequent years. Question number 8. In writing, you should always try to avoid repetition. Are there any synonyms you can use for consumption, rise, and fall? Consumption: use, usage, the amount consumed. Fall: decline, drop, not fall down. Rise: increase, climb, go up, not rise up. So your homework: take a graph below and try to describe it using those 8 questions. There you can see resources. And also you can find your homework on Moodle. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.